Dear heads on the wall, dear heads on the wall, always watching you. Hey! Dear heads on the wall, dear heads on the wall, always watching you. Dear hunter shot Bambi, Bambi took the fall, dear heads on the wall, always watching you. Yeah. You're not paranoid if they're out to get you. You're not paranoid if they're out to get you.
And happy Saturday. I am in Connecticut today. The weather today is really kind of weird because allegedly it's summer. We're almost into June, and yet it is currently about 44 degrees in Connecticut and cold and windy and rainy. Weird day. So the weather is what it is. And this is either going to be a day out looking around for signs of life at a time of year when I'm not here as often as I normally am. I had stated before I intend to kind of shutter between Vermont and Connecticut and kind of split my time between the two to show some more love to the local area as well. Today may be a day of making the best of the weather. It's not raining crazily hard right now, but at 42 degrees, if the rain does pick up, it's going to get cold quickly. So despite being allegedly summer, the weather is what it is, and we'll just have to make the best of it and see what we can accomplish today. So that being the case, come on along and we'll see what we find. Thanks. Coming up on the pond. It's a weird day out here, as I said before. The undergrowth has gotten thick. It's also in 40 degrees, windy, cold, and wet. So everything from the knee down is going to get soaking wet and be cold. And the terrain in here is a lot trickier today because with the ferns being as thick as they are, you can't see dumb things that you might trip over as well. So the operative day is going to be a used phrase of "it is what it is." So it's not driving rain yet, but if it did start to driving rain, or become driving rain rather, I should have worn some pockets because it's nippy. It is chilly. It is friggin' chilly out here today. I'll try not to whine about the weather too much. The weird thing is, it's nice and summery and green and all that, but warm and hot and muggy, it is not. It is raw. It's that kind of like special cold and wet you get near like a nautical scene. I usually would equate this to like October or November, but it is May, and even as I try to go through the lovely wilderness, there's always a freaking damn plane walking reminding us that civilization is still not so far away. Oh, what's going on in Bigfooting today? I don't know. I guess we'll just talk about my plans coming up. So last week I had gone to Vermont with a plan to get into an area a little deeper. I've been to the area before, but circumstances had kept me from getting across the meadow into another meadow that was on the far side deeper in, mainly because beaver meadows, when you have rain, are basically giant sponges, and the more rain you have, the more of a muddy freaking death pit it is, and getting across is easier said than done, as evidenced by the fact every now and then people like forestry service people will find a moose dead in the middle of a meadow because it got stuck in the mud up to its legs and couldn't get out. That is actually a thing, believe it or not. So the other thing is, you notice I'm hacking up along, and no, I don't smoke, is the fact that the pollen count, at least in this neck of the woods, has been ridiculous lately. I had the cathartic experience, not that you care, of, there's a weird looking tree, of taking the car to the car wash just to wash the green paste off the car, and knowing it was a band-aid because it was starting to reassert itself till the rain came back today, which is actually welcome from the free car wash standpoint. But yeah, the pollen has been ridiculous. Every time I'm outside for more than 5 minutes, I'm hacking up a lung. Like that. The weather app places anything like 9 or above as a high pollen count, with maple, birch, and juniper being the offending pollinators. But the weather has been, for people that like stick structures, there you go, there's one. I think that one's new too. I don't remember that one from 2 weeks ago. If I screw up and say last week, scold me, because it's actually been 2 weeks. Getting back to Vermont, however, I was able to get into this meadow a little further out, and it's not a huge meadow, but there is in fact another meadow further out. There's a system of them that take you far enough out. The thing being, the challenge is trying to find something in the way of like a connecting stream, because if you get turned around in there, in these woods, you're looking to be minus entry of twisting your ankle over things, because you have all these damn ferns in here now obscuring your obstacles or coldening your shins. Looks like we're clearing that out a little bit now. The turnaround factor in there is potentially not just like hours, but it's big enough. If you were a navigational numbnuts, you could be in there for a day or two. You could you could lose your weekend to it. But there's a couple of meadows in there, and it's definitely a bear active area, because I did in fact see bear tracks while I was there. And I think up over the hill I heard something grunting in the undergrowth, and given the bear track that was looking really fresh, I'm thinking that was our culprit. We were sharing space with a black bear who was probably foraging. Probably didn't care I was there, because he was busy doing bear stuff, but he definitely let himself be known that he was there, so always prudently let him have some space. This is a unique day weather-wise. It's been a weird summer so far, because Memorial Day was kind of like this too, not quite as cold. This is actually colder than last week, but it was kind of cloudy and rainy, and you want summer to get here and all the summertime acuity of that, but we didn't do that. What we had in our neighborhood, however, hold on, maybe if I get all the snot out of my nose too. was an active shooter situation in our neighborhood. That never happens. But we had they had a picture of the guy too. He definitely looked like somebody who is, and I'll apologize again for all the hucking and all that, but the pollen situation being what it is. The guy is definitely not a stranger to the drug scene. And he ended up shooting at a car. The local police had claimed the two parties knew each other, but this is in the middle of a confluence of condo complexes, and it's a crowded, busy street. And this happened around 4:15, like around 4:50 in the afternoon when everybody was coming home from work. So this idiot very easily could have shot randomly jogger, walker, dog walker, somebody driving home from work, kid on a bike. So he was on the loose from Tuesday of last week through basically, I think they caught him somewhere in nearby New York on Saturday sometime. So fun times to be in an otherwise decent area, except for the random violence that you find in the craziness of these days. And you can apply that to just about any area. I'm thankful that Connecticut does not have, to my knowledge, an ICE detention center. So all the protests, and let's call them what they are. These aren't protests at this point, they're riots. And we don't have that, so I don't have to worry about driving by the scene of a riot at this point. And I'm going to have to pay attention to the undergrowth in here, because I'm kind of like milling through this with all the undergrowth. The normal terrain, this is like thoroughly looking different, and again with all the roots and little bumps in the that you can normally see, the undergrowth has that completely obscured, so you're gonna have to watch as you're walking too. It's deceptive. Things like that are suddenly things you can trip over. And if you were like walking through here on a night hike, even more so, you'd have to pay attention and go slow and methodically. Which is something I should do at some point. Because despite not seeing wildlife in the daytime, the signs of every kind of major fauna in the area is here, from moose on down. So they may hear you coming and move off or whatever, but you're certainly not out here alone. Speaking of, what the hell was that? With the wind being what it was, it's probably some kind of a tree rubbing against another one, but every now and then you'll hear something out here that's thoroughly unfamiliar. Yeah, we don't have a detention center. Not that they're trying around the country to. I've delved into politics, but I was talking about random violence, and it's kind of an applicable segue. And I'm not going to pick sides as to the nature of the detention center riots, because that really is what they are. You have people on the left who claim that they are defending their community, and that's probably partially true. Although you have definitely a network of people on the left side that basically are, I'll just call them professionals that kind of come in and organize these things. You're naive to think they're not organized. In the same way, I'll draw a parallel analogy. In the capital city of Hartford, when I worked there for 4 years, you had on every street corner a person who was basically panhandling with a cardboard sign. And if you watch them day to day, you have a guy out there for about 2.5, 3 hours, maybe less, before he's relieved by his replacement. Somebody's on ATVs further off, to my annoyance. But these panhandlers, they are organized. If you watch them, they all know each other and they relieve each other. They probably have some place where they meet and they divvy up all the goods they get. They may even just be scammers for all you know. But along that same line, I'm going to call them rioters because that is at this point what they are. It's disingenuous to call them protesters because protesters are largely peaceful. What I saw in Granby, Connecticut on the way here a couple of weeks ago when they were doing their No Kings thing, you had a bunch of people in the town square that were standing around with signs and chanting and not bothering anyone beyond that. Those are protesters. They are people who are peaceful, and basically half of them are probably there because they have a big sign outside saying free coffee to get numbers there. So if you're an older person, because a lot of these people are like well past retirement age, not to but just to make the obvious observation, they if you got nothing going on and you feel strongly about a subject, you also got free coffee. That might be why half of them are there, but they're not bothering anyone. The ones that go to the detention centers are actively, aggressively, willfully violent on the one hand, and on the other hand you have the ICE guys who, having lurked in the ERO subreddit of Reddit, ERO being half of ICE, you have two halves to that, just to like make this clarified, just so you know I'm not talking out of my ass completely. HSI is Homeland Security Investigations, and if you are a citizen born and raised but you're up to no good, like moving migrants around or smuggling contraband or this kind of thing, these individuals actually can arrest citizens as well as illegals for doing things if they fall within the purview of their specific jurisdiction. Again, being customs and smuggling, that kind of shit. ERO, on the other hand, is what is it? ERO is enforcement. It's basically strictly immigration, so they are there to enforce immigration laws. And if you're somebody who's from another country and you overstay whatever kind of visa you have, H-1B or even a tourist one, these are the guys that come and get you and lock you up in what some people are calling concentration camps. And from what I've heard from a number of things I've read, conditions in there are not great. And they even have grabbed protesters and or citizens and held them in one case for up to 3 days. My theory there being, hello. Hold on. Oh, we have a bear. What is the bear doing? Let's back up. He is... No? Fuck. Hold on. Where did the bear go? Alright, we're still recording. Sorry about that. Somewhere in there is a bear, and he was causing me concern, so we are going to fall back and hunt a bit. This is a first. I've lost him in the undergrowth, so I don't like that. We are going to move in the other direction away from him. This is the first time I've been in here where I've actually drawn my Ruger with the intention of putting a warning shot in the area minimum. I have to be careful of sudden movements that I have around in the chamber too. New territory, folks. Fuck. He's in there somewhere. I'm going to move away. I am alarmed. If you notice a different change in the pitch of my voice, because I'm trying to find my way through the undergrowth and not be overly obvious where I'm going. Could be he was just passing by, random encounter, but the vibe I got was not what I liked, so I'm gonna kind of start making my way back. This is why we carry in the fucking woods. Shit. I was going to go deeper in, but now that I've seen him, that's a different matter. We're going to kind of keep things closer to home, so I have an avenue of retreat should he be following me. I don't know if he is or not. That's the first time I've drawn my gun out here, though. It's a weird thing, condition-wise, when you wake up and you're going to head out, conditions aren't really great, and little voice tells you that maybe you shouldn't. And today, sorry if this is all choppy, I'm kind of like talking into the camera because I still record. But, yeah, I'm alarmed right now. Because I saw him, he saw me. He didn't really retreat at all. Normally they will. It could be that I am making more of this than I think. The problem is with all this undergrowth, what we just learned was a bear can be 20 feet away from you and you suddenly realize you're sharing space with them, and they're normally not that aggressive, but again, this guy didn't retreat and I don't want to really share it. There's a new feel in the woods out here, because normally you're walking around out here and I feel safe enough in here, but I was just talking about never seeing wildlife in here. Well, that's abruptly changed. The sucky thing is I'm distracted by not tripping over shit too, because okay, from here I can stand and see out 50 yards or so at least. I don't see a big moving black blob. He's out. He's like, maximum distance from him right now is probably no more than 250 feet or so. So he didn't run away. He's still in there doing his thing. He's probably just foraging, but I am going to do the prudence on the better part of valor kind of thing and stay over here, trying not to trip over every goddamn tree that I do, because I'm a little bit spooked by that, if I'm being honest. However, I am becoming increasingly convinced he was not following me. The thing that spooked me a little bit, he went into the undergrowth where I couldn't see him. And I've seen a lot of encounters where bears get not necessarily predatory, but they're curious to the point where you're not comfortable with it. And he was moving in my direction without really like showing me any deference, whatever the right word is. And so for a period when I had the camera probably in my pocket and not in the best view, it's because I can't handle the camera and the gun at the same time. And my first thought was to put a warning shot in the air, and hopefully a loud, unfamiliar noise will run the bear off, but you still got 5 in the chamber, and don't think I don't have another magazine in the other pocket should I need to freaking get into a thing with it. I don't want to. I'd rather just let him be. But that's also kind of dependent upon him letting me be, and so far he seems to be, but I'm still going to move away from him just to cover my own ass and not... Who says nothing ever happens out here? I don't know if I got him on camera. I think I did, though. I don't see him, so in all likelihood he probably moved off that way, but I ain't risking it. So the rain is also picking up. As I said, it was going to get colder and shitty out. It is in fact doing that. So I'm going to do this thing where I talk to myself to kind of calm myself down, but also keep looking backward to make sure that our friend is not following me, because he wasn't moving. The thing about bears is they don't come running, charging after you if they're curious in ways that don't make you comfortable. They kind of meander at a casual pace behind you. But if they don't go away, it's also a cause for concern, because why are they interested in you? Never go into the woods unarmed ever again. Jesus Christ, that was concerning. We're going to move this way instead. I didn't have any particular agenda, but I'm not going over now that I know that our friend is over there. I'm going to treat this area with a new respect now that I know there's at least one. I always say, like, there's a couple of bears in the area, and sorry about the chopping handling. I have so many hands, and with the wind and the rain kicking up, it's getting chilly, so my dexterity is also turning to shit. So, whew. Little education there. I don't see him, so I don't think he's following me, but I'm glad I was at least prepared enough to have the means to fire a warning shot. Like I said, I think the loud noise of that would be enough, aside from the fact it's going to hurt the fuck out of my ears. It would be enough to probably run him off. But if not, then you got to think, if he's not running off of that, that is possibly a predatory bear, and that's a whole different animal. Meaning, as I have said online, sounds like bravado, but if the bear is looking like he's predatory, hard march up to it and you mag dump every fucking bullet you have into his skull at point blank range and pray it works. Unfortunately, in that moment, the bear has to die. I don't want to do that, and I don't like having choppy moment like that, because I don't think a Ruger will misfire with the round in the chamber. I will have to undo that, but not before I'm clear of the bear zone. Okay, we're going to move back towards the pond though. That was mildly alarming. So and who's to say he's alone? I'm assuming that's a male. He was definitely not a cub. Looked like a male if he's solitary. But all the more reason to give the cautionary advice to be bear aware, because that was a fucking bear. He was not retreating at all. I become concerned over a bear that's not sweating me that much if he's not going to act passive. And now as we move over this way, I was talking about the the riot situation at ice centers, and all of a sudden we had some very real woods things happen. I don't see them, so I'm good. But anyway, I think I was saying they, I guess you have to call them professional agitators that come in and stir up. Because what they're doing is effectively milking outrage towards ICE. And I was talking about ICE, actually, the ERO, which are strictly immigration enforcement. So technically speaking, unless they see you in the commission of a federal crime, ERO guys are not legally allowed to detain citizens once you have established beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are in fact somebody who is an American. And sorry if I'm distracted. I'm going to be distracted as I make sure I don't. Luckily, I ran into him, not to beat on the subject, but I ran into him at a range of about 70 feet, I guess. So there was a little bit of time to react before he and I were like face to face, because that does wake your ass up. And scared human or frightened bear can react aggressively, not out of necessarily any real malice, but you spook the bear, you spook the human, things can escalate. Getting back to the ERO, in their subreddit, sorry, I have my sleeves around my hands because my hands are getting cold. You wouldn't know it was summer out here. Kind of looking over this way because with all this undergrowth, that's exactly the kind of thing you could pop out of and be a whole lot closer than I want them to be. So the situation is, on the one hand, you have the protesters who are aggressively it builds outrage in their mind if they are aggressively agitating people, and there's a myriad of side cases I could cite. The Etrusco family has made their rounds online as agitators. Alright, I'm out of the road where I can move more quickly and freely now. And as long as he stays over there, I'm good. But I'm going to yield the woods to him because I don't want to... I'm not sure what his demeanor was, so that's when you concede and leave, rather than give him reason to think about you too much. That's the first time I ever drew my weapon out here. Okay, so you may think I'm a wuss for moving, but the bear's vibe was not one. One, I don't think I misread it, and two, I was not comfortable with it because he was not. Most of the time, the bear will just go about his business. This one kind of slinked into the undergrowth, and I lost him. So, prudence versus valor today. Smokey, there's this round to you. But again, getting back to the situation at the detention centers, I'm glad we don't have one. This kind of branched off of the whole active shooter thing we had last week, and here I am running from a bear. It's been a fucked up week. There is, however, wisdom in knowing when to retreat. So you have the agitators that are wanting to egg ICE on to milk the outrage, but you also have the ERO guys in their subreddit that are not happy about the fact their alleged sign-on bonus is not coming. So morale among these guys, there's a video out there where 3 of them are interviewed, and their morale is in the crapper. So On the one hand, you have people with low morale that are really looking for an outlet for their aggressions that are probably pent up to all hell, and you have the protesters who, some of which are legitimately defending their community in their minds, and other ones are there to agitate for part of a larger Orange Man Bad crusade. ICE being the manifestation of that. I feel better now because I have this between me and the reason I'm acting differently than I preach about bears before is there was just something about the bear's vibe that gave it like a stalky predator, like a stalking kind of vibe. Normally I would have allowed him to go, but it's like with the trickiness of the terrain combined with the fact you now know that there is actually a bear in your immediate vicinity, you changes the way you're looking around in the woods. There's a lot of undergrowth in here, and assuming he's the only one in the neighborhood, to which there's no guarantee, they can pop right out 20 feet from you. Suddenly you have a revelation of that. I don't see him though, so I guess he's doing what he's doing. But you have that dichotomy of mutual aggression. These two sides are going to clash because on the one hand, you have pent-up aggressions in the ICE guys who are just looking for the excuse, and you have the agitators and the rioters who are there wanting these people gone under no uncertain terms. And that's why I'm glad we don't have a detention center anywhere in my area. What we do have, and this is a legitimate concern in my mind, up the hill in my greater neighborhood, it's a weird location to have a port of entry for the Border Patrol, but we actually do have one. They came in quietly, and little known fact, the people who killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy were not in fact ICE agents. They were in fact Border Patrol. They were Greg Bovino's guys. They were Border Patrol. And in both cases, these are guys who have hyper-aggressive training. They possibly are dealing with Mexicans spanning the border down near like New Mexico, Arizona. And they were thrown into an urban area that is predominantly citizen-occupied. And the way that they act towards the citizens is revealing. That they are, in fact, if you have these guys in your vicinity, they are a threat to you and yours, regardless of whatever kind of cop-splaining they want to give you. I don't want to go too far into that because that wasn't, my day got away from me. What we're going to do is call this one a day, just because I didn't like the vibe the bear was giving off. So we are going to yield the woods to him and call this one a day, given that and the combination of the weather. It's really raw out there. And my camera's getting soaked. So before it craps out on me, we're going to call this one a day. Like, subscribe, give suggestions, avoid weird vibe giving bears. Like I said, he kind of went to the undergrowth and he was coming towards me. That's why I got a little spooked. We're going to call this one a day, and until the next time, be bear aware, and prudence is better than valor sometimes. Until next time, bye.